Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. If you want to see how I made this frontal wig using a sewing machine, stay tuned. First things first, let me tell y'all about this True Glory hair. Now, they sent me 3 bundles of 16-inch 613 body wave hair and an 18-inch frontal. And if you want to see how I colored it, make sure to click in the upper right corner to see that video, but of course not before you watch this one. The hair was extremely soft, easy to work with, and took to the color really well, so we love that. Let's get into how we are making this wig. So this is actually my second time making a frontal wig. The first time I did this by hand, and this time around I wanted to try a sewing machine. For the frontal, you want to mark where the middle is. What I do is fold the frontal in half, matching it up to the stitching at the back, not the lace. If you fold it according to the ends of the lace, you can see that it is not even, so make sure not to do that. We're using blonde thread, and I personally do not use black on colored hair just because of one wrong turn and you're going to be able to see that black thread or whatever colored thread. Once I put the wig cap on, I match the middle of the cap with the middle line of the mannequin head. Then I match the middle of the frontal with that line as well. You want to place the frontal about 1 inch over the cap. You never want to put the frontal right at the cap because once you actually put it on, it's going to be all the way to the back of your head. Like, it's not going to fit right. And everybody's hairline is different, so you want to just be mindful of how much hair you leave out. And honestly, in my opinion, the more the better, but that's to each its own. You're going to want to pin the frontal down in the front first, then directly at the back, and then on the sides. And you're going to do this on each end. I have it marked on my mannequin head where my ears are, and I just measured that out. So I knew I would be cutting the excess lace, but don't stress if you have a lot of excess. Just like with any wig that's too big, you're just going to cut that off. Now we're getting into the fun part. We're sewing the frontal down. I make sure that I do the stitches as closely as possible to each other just so that it is super secure. And honestly, I sew regularly. Sometimes I forget which direction I sewed in, like in terms of going under or overhand. But even when I switch, it still does the same thing. So don't even pay too much attention to that. I know that when you're doing the frontal, you're going to be like, but it don't make sense. Like, the math is not mathing. Trust me, guys. I have experienced it firsthand, where I was like, I don't think I should put the lace too far up. And then when I tell you I was struggling to put that cap on, to put the wig on, like struggling. So just trust the process, okay? Trust the process. And I actually did make a video on when I did the first time, which I just never uploaded because I never did like a final look. But if y'all want me to just upload it like raw, uncut, well, not uncut, but you know, let me know down below because I'll definitely upload it. When you get to the end of the frontal, the last 4 or 5 stitches, I make knots by wrapping the thread around the needle and pulling it all the way through. And I'm sorry if it's a little bit hard to see, but I'm hoping that you get the gist of it. And if not, let me know down below. Now this part is totally option, but y'all, I know I got a big old head, but my hair space, like where all my hair is actually pretty small. So usually most caps are really big on me. So I did make the cap a bit smaller. I measured from my forehead to the nape of my neck, then use those measurements to see how small I should make the cap. On the mannequin head, I move the end of the cap to where the measurements are and then fold over the excess and sew it down. Now, the cap is obviously stretchy, so it won't be exactly perfect, and you're like me and are a worrywart, you do not have to do as much excess. And just be mindful, I'm not sewing on the elastic band that goes around the entire wig cap, but just the fabric part. So if you sew on the elastic, you're not going to be able to stretch the wig, and we do not want that. I also made that mistake, and again, it was very hard to put it on my head. To make sure that I use as much of the bundles as possible, I map out where I want to put it, then use some chalk to map the lines, which is super helpful once you start sewing. Before, I used to use a chalk pen, and I would recommend that or something that's a little bit more permanent, not like marker or anything like that, but chalk just goes away so easily once you just start touching it, so I would just refrain from using chalk. You're actually drawing the lines, the ones in that little middle section are going to be straight across, and then on the side, those are going to angle downwards. Once you hit the middle though, those lines are going to go straight across, still in the middle, and then straight down on the sides. And you can kind of see that here because when you do that final track, it's going to go from pretty much ear to ear, so that way it just sits properly. I hope that makes sense. Now I just go back in and triple check the spacing again by placing the tracks on each line. So I have a brother sewing machine that I've had since high school. It's pretty basic and just has like the basic functions of what I needed to do. I'm using a zigzag stitch to stitch the wefts on the bundle. Basically, I'm doubling the weft, and I don't remember which YouTuber I learned this from, but I will make sure to link her page in my description and on the video. But it really works. Instead of sewing the wefts directly on top of each other, you sew them side by side, so it makes it less bulky in the end. Now, I'm not a professional when it comes to sewing, so I always test out the stitches before I go all in, because I honestly don't understand the settings that well. So if you're better than me, be better than me. But right now, we are doing what we gotta do. This part is pretty tough, but you want to make sure the stitching is large enough to get both the top and bottom track. You don't want to pull the track, but you do want to make sure that you're pushing the tracks together so that the needle pierces the wefts and not like the hair or just nothing, which happened to me quite a lot. And this is what it should look like. It's not perfect, but it was my first time, so bear with me. Now, on to sewing down the wefts to the wig cap. Now, we are still using the zigzag setting. You want to make sure that you're not pulling on the wig cap while you're sewing it down. If you do, when it unstretches, it's going to be lumpy and bumpy, and we don't want that. Make sure you're not pulling or tugging on the hair. Just make it go through the machine naturally, meaning let the machine use whatever teeth it got in there to pull it through on its own. You're just kind of guiding it to where it needs to go. And once you get to the end, you're going to do a back stitch, which is essentially closing the stitch, and you're going to cut the excess thread off. Also, I cut the lace from behind the frontal because it was making it hard to maneuver the wig through the machine. And I wanted to make sure that I wasn't sewing that part of the wig down. Make sure not to cut too close to where you sewed the frontal, or that thing will come apart and you're gonna be looking stuck on stupid trying to figure out how to put that wig together, and you won't be able to because it's done after that. As I was making the wig, I did try it on as often as possible, so you want to do that as well, just to make sure that it will fit once you're all done. Once you get closer to the middle / top, you want to start sewing single wefts just to make sure that it's not super bulky at the top, and so you can fit as many wefts as possible. I was cutting the wefts as I went, so you can do the same or you can fold it over. But if you fold it over, that creates some bulkiness in the wig, and we don't want that. The biggest issue that I ran into was that my sewing machine kept getting jammed because the wefts were so thick. Make sure to be patient. I would get really frustrated when the machine would get stuck, or if I thought I was sewing on a weft but I wasn't. Like, it's not a race, y'all. As you and myself continue to do this, it'll get easier and quicker. I think in total it took me about 5 hours to make, which in actuality is not that bad. For the last weft, you want to sew it directly next to the frontal. At this point, there's so much hair on the wig, so you again can get frustrated because the wig doesn't want to lay right. The machine is just acting a fool and it's tired of you, but you just want to be patient. You're gonna get through it, and that's that on that. That is pretty much it, guys. If you have any questions, leave them down below. This wig came out really nice. It was still a little big, but not as bad as like normal wigs that I just buy or that I get from companies that I work with. So I absolutely love the way that turned out. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want more videos like this, let me know down below. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you're alerted when I post new videos. Thumbs this video up if you're loving it, if you're liking the content, okay? And I will see you guys in my next video. Thanks again, guys. Bye.